The terminal was buzzing with chatter, wheels rolling over polished floors, and the faint aroma of roasted coffee drifting from the nearby cafe. At gate 47, a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit stood quietly checking his boarding pass. His name was Malcolm Hayes, age 42, founder and CEO of Skylink Technologies, a company whose systems powered some of the world's largest airlines. Today, he wasn't flying private. He preferred to blend in, think, observe. It kept him grounded. Malcolm adjusted his cufflinks, gold, engraved with the initials MH. He'd worked too hard for those letters to mean nothing. Born in Atlanta, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs, he'd built his empire from nothing but grit and sleepless nights. But right now, he was just another passenger waiting to board flight 278 to Seattle. The announcement came through the speakers. We're now boarding first-class passengers for flight 278. Malcolm stepped forward first in line. But before he could hand over his boarding pass, the gate agent, a woman in her late 30s with a polite yet practiced smile, stopped him. Sir, this line is for first-class boarding only, she said firmly. Malcolm blinked surprise. Yes, he replied calmly. I'm aware. Her eyes flicked over his face, then his clothes. Tailored, yes, but not flashy. No white screaming status. No entourage. No arrogance. I'm sorry, sir. She said, her tone sharpening. This line is for first-class pass passengers only. You need to step aside. A few people behind him exchanged looks. One man chuckled under his breath. Malcolm kept his composure. Ma'am, in first class, he said, showing her the ticket on his phone. But she didn't even glance at it. Sir, please don't make a scene. You can board once we call your group. A business traveler, white, mid-40s, carrying a designer briefcase, leaned forward with a smug grin. Maybe your seat's back there in business or economy, buddy. Easy mistake. Malcolm's jaw tightened. He could have corrected him, but something told him not to. Not yet. Not yet. He glanced at the agent's name tag, K. Miller. Miss Miller, he said softly, I assure you there's no mistake. Her patient snapped. Sir, please step aside. And she motioned for security. The murmurs grew. Phones came out. Someone whispered, What's going on? Another said, I guess he tried to sneak in the first. Malcolm took a deep breath, then stepped back. He wasn't angry, just disappointed. He'd seen this before. Not once, not twice, but too many times to count. The security officer, a tall man with kind eyes, approached and asked, Everything all right, sir? Malcolm nodded. Just a misunderstanding. I showed his boarding pass. The officer scanned it. Seat 2A, first class. The officer looked at the gate agent, frowning. He's cleared for first, ma'am. Her face turned red. Oh, I must have misread. Malcolm gave a polite smile. No harm done. He walked past her, head held high, boarding the plane. But behind that calm smile, something stirred. Not anger, not pride, but resolve. Inside the plane, he settled in 2A next to the window. The cabin smelled of citrus and leather. The flight attendant, Emily, offered a glass of champagne. Thank you, he said. Just water, please. Emily smiled. Of course, Mr. Hayes. He was surprised she recognized his name. You know me? She chuckled softly. You designed the system that runs our check-in gates. We see your name every day. Malcolm smiled faintly. Irony, huh? Emily tilted her head, sensing something had happened. Everything okay? He hesitated. Just one of those reminders. Before she could respond, the captain's voice came over the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we're expecting a smooth flight today. Malcolm leaned back, closing his eyes. But the peace didn't last long. A commotion erupted near the front. The same gate agent Miss Miller had boarded. She was speaking in hushed tones to the head flight attendant. Malcolm could hear bits of it. He wasn't supposed to. I think it's a fake ticket. Emily caught his glance. Stay seated, she whispered. Moments later, 2 uniformed staff entered the cabin. Yes, sir, we're going to need to verify your ticket again, one of them said to Malcolm. He exhaled slowly. Go ahead. They scanned it again. Green light, valid. But now passengers were staring, some whispering, some smirking. An older woman in the opposite seat muttered under her breath, This is ridiculous. Let the man sit down. The crew apologized profusely, but the damage was done. Malcolm could feel the heat of humiliation crawl up his neck. The plane taxied toward the runway. But just before takeoff, something unexpected happened. The captain's voice returned, tense. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed to hold position. Please remain seated. A murmur swept through the cabin. People checked their watches, groaned. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, Emily approached Malcolm with a confused look. Sir, could you come with me for a moment? He followed her to the galley, where a uniformed supervisor stood with a phone. Mr. Hayes, the man said cautiously, our system just received a level 1 lockout notice from Skylink Technologies. All flight operations have been temporarily suspended. Malcolm raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes, sir, it seems. Well, the notice came directly from your corporate authorization code. He smiled faintly. That's correct. The man blinked. I'm sorry. Malcolm clasped his hands calmly. When your system flagged me as an unauthorized passenger, it triggered a protocol check across all Skylink-linked airlines. It's a safety measure we installed last quarter to prevent security breaches. He paused, meeting the supervisor's stunned eyes. Apparently, your staff just activated it. The man's face drained of color. You mean? Yes, Malcolm said. Every plane in your fleet is now grounded until Skylink confirms system integrity. You can thank Ms. Miller for that. Within minutes, phones rang across the airline's headquarters. Operations froze. Dozens of aircraft were held at gates or diverted mid-route. News alerts began flashing. Breaking. Major airline experiences system-wide shutdown back in first class. Passengers buzzed with confusion. Malcolm sat silently, watching raindrops streak across the window. Emily returned, her voice low. Sir, the captain would like to apologize on behalf of the crew. Malcolm shook his head. He's not the one who needs to apologize. A few minutes later, Miss Miller boarded the plane again, no longer smug, her hands trembling. Mr. Hayes, she said softly, he didn't know. I'm so sorry. I thought. Malcolm looked up at her, calm but unreadable. You thought what? She swallowed hard. That you didn't belong here. Silence hung between them. Passengers nearby turned to listen. He could have humiliated her. He could have said what so many others wanted to. But instead he said quietly, and next time, don't assume. Just ask. Then he took out his phone and entered a brief code. The system lock was lifted. Across the country, airports sighed in relief. Flights resumed, operations restored. The captain's voice came over the speaker once more. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been cleared for takeoff. The passengers applauded without even knowing why. As the plane soared above the clouds, Emily stopped by again. You could have made a scene, she said softly, but you didn't. Malcolm smiled faintly. I've learned something, he replied. Her power isn't shown by how loud you shout. It's shown by how quietly you stand when you could do otherwise. Emily nodded, thoughtful. We're a better man than most. He looked out the window, the clouds glowing gold under the sun. Maybe I just remember what it's like to be on the other side of the counter. Flashback 20 years earlier, a young Malcolm sat at a crowded airport gate, wearing a thrift store suit and clutching a worn leather folder filled with resumes. He was 22, broke, and heading to an interview for an entry-level IT job. At the counter, he watched as others got upgrades, smiles, and friendly service, while he got curt replies and a middle seat ticket. When the flight overbooked, he'd been the first to volunteer bumped off. He'd spent the night on the cold terminal floor, sipping cheap coffee, wondering if he'd ever be more than invisible. That night, he made a promise. If I ever build something big enough to matter, I'll make sure nobody gets treated like I did. He kept that promise. Back in the present, the plane cut through smooth air. Dinner was served, seared salmon, roasted vegetables, and soft bread. Miss Miller approached again, still shaken but determined. She held out a tray. Mr. Hayes, I know it's not enough, but I'd like to personally apologize for how I treated you. I made assumptions I shouldn't have. Malcolm studied her face, the embarrassment, the regret. He took a breath. Do you have kids, Miller? She blinked, surprised. Yes, 2 boys. He nodded. I teach them to see people for who they are, not what they look like. That'll make them better men. Her eyes softened. I will. Thank you. He gave a small nod and returned to his seat. As the hours passed, passengers relaxed, conversations flowed, and the early attention dissolved in a quiet laughter and a clinking glasses. Malcolm opened his laptop, reviewing an upcoming contract proposal. Ironically, from this very airline's headquarters, he'd been debating whether to renew their partnership for another 5 years. He smiled slightly, typed a few notes, then closed the file. He already knew his decision. Landing in Seattle when the plane touched down, a group of executives was waiting at the gate. The airline CEO, cool, and PR director. Cameras flashed. The CEO, a gray-haired man in a Navy suit, hurried forward. Mr. Hayes, please accept our deepest apologies. We had no idea. Malcolm raised a hand. You don't need to explain. I've seen enough. The man swallowed nervously. We like to personally discuss how to make this right. Malcolm smiled politely. A way to make it right is to make sure it doesn't happen again. He turned to leave but paused. Oh, and about the Skylink contract, I'll have my team call yours. Let's discuss new terms. The CEO nodded eagerly, but there was a flicker of fear in his eyes. Outside, the Seattle air was cool and crisp. The city lights shimmered on the wet pavement. Malcolm paused for a moment, gazing up at the night sky. He thought about his mother, how she used to say, "You'll never need to prove yourself to small minds, baby. Just keep building something bigger than their walls." He smiled faintly. She'd been right. A black car pulled up. His driver stepped out. A welcome to Seattle, Mr. Hayes. As the car merged into traffic, his phone buzzed, a text from Emily, the flight attendant. Emily, thank you for handling that with grace. People will remember today for the right reasons. He stared at the message for a moment, then typed back. Malcolm, sometimes the lesson isn't for the one who's wrong. It's for everyone watching. He put the phone away, gazing out the window as the city lights blurred into streaks of gold. 28 minutes. That's all it had taken, for the world to see how fast things can change when respect is denied. But for Malcolm Hayes, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reminding the world that dignity doesn't wear a color, it carries a name. And his name was one they would never forget.